Jesus was heading back towards the Mount of Olives, and the disciples followed him quietly. When they arrived, the disciples sat down, and Jesus said to them, "Pray now. Pray that you won't be tested." Then Jesus kept on walking and left the disciples behind. Suddenly he fell on his knees. "God, please, don't make me do this. Please don't. But do what you want to do, not what I want." Jesus was in so much pain that an angel appeared and came to help him. Eventually, Jesus got up and went back to find the disciples. They were snoring their heads off, fast asleep. "Why are you asleep?" he said. "Why were you not praying? Wake up now and pray that you won't be tested." Jesus was still trying to wake the disciples when a crowd of people appeared. They were getting closer pretty quickly, and as they did, it became clear that there was one man out in front. The disciples squinted at him. It looked like... oh, couldn't be, could it? It was. It was Judas. Judas came strolling over and gave Jesus an enormous hug and planted a great big kiss on his cheek. But there was a strange look on his face. "Judas, are you betraying the Messiah with a kiss?"
And then it dawned on the disciples. It had been Judas all along. Jesus was about to be arrested and taken away. They grabbed their swords and ran towards the crowd. "Shall we attack them, Jesus? Shall we use our swords?" "No, stop. That's enough," said Jesus as people from the crowd grabbed hold of him. But it was too late for one of the crowd. Someone had swung their sword at him and cut his ear clean off. Oh! Jesus simply reached out and touched the man's head, and his ear was instantly healed. Jesus spoke to the crowd as they tried to lead him away. "Why are you arresting me like this? Why did you bring all these swords and weapons to hurt me? Why are you treating me like a criminal? I was there every day in the temple. You could have taken me away whenever you wanted. Why now? Why like this? This is the time. Now the darkness is in control." They led Jesus away. Peter waited until the crowd had gone off ahead, and then he followed them all the way to the house of the high priest. Once Jesus had disappeared from view, Peter snuck inside. After a while, Peter noticed some people were lighting a fire in the courtyard. So he went over to join them, and then sat quietly, trying to get warm. The people round the fire kept looking at him. Peter buried his face in his cloak. "He was with Jesus," one of the women announced. "I was not. I've never even met him," mumbled Peter into his cloak. Later on, someone else said, "Hey, you're that guy who was with Jesus, aren't you? You're one of those disciple people." "No, I'm not," said Peter. "Stop saying that I am."
But then, about an hour later, someone else spoke up. "Look at him. He's clearly from Galilee. And that's where that Jesus guy came from. Of course he knows him. Don't you?" Peter stood up and shouted, "I don't know him. Leave me alone." And then, just as Peter finished talking, he heard it. A rooster crying out loudly, just like Jesus said. Peter turned and then saw Jesus over the other side of the courtyard. Jesus was looking straight back at him. Peter couldn't stand it. He couldn't stand knowing what he'd just done. He turned and ran away as fast as he could, with tears streaming down his face. Meanwhile, the guards who were keeping an eye on Jesus started to bully him. They kicked and punched and called him names. They even put a blindfold on him and then took turns hitting him in the face. "Go on then," they jeered. "Tell us who it was that hit you." After a pretty awful night, the morning came and Jesus was dragged before all the important temple people. "Tell us then, are you the Messiah?" they sneered. "If I said I was, you'd say I wasn't," replied Jesus. "If I asked you a question, you'd ignore me. But you should know that now the Son of Man will take his place at the right-hand side of God in heaven." "So are you the Son of Man then? Is that who you're claiming to be?" "That's who you say I am," said Jesus. "That's settled then. We don't need any more witnesses, do we? He's just said it himself." "What's going on here? Did you notice anything odd about what just happened to Jesus?"